Hey everybody, it's Mrs. Montague here again with another video, this time on Google Sites. So I've got sites.google.com file extensions we've gone to here. So I don't have any options up here across the top to create a new Google site, which I think is something that they're probably working on grid. So you can see I've got my grid pulled up over here on the top right. I can get it to Gmail, Drive, Classroom, etc. And then right here is Sites, so Google Site. Definitely always do the new option if it gives you that option. So we've got a blank site now pulled up. First thing you'll notice is that I don't have a site name for my site. So let's again just make this my test site. So once I update that, it's also giving me the option to add a logo. So if I have a logo like the CCS logo that I wanted to put up here or something like that, I could add that in as well. Or I could put in the Murphy High School logo. It's just up to me if I want to add that in or not. You also have the option to change your background image here. So if I were to upload, all right, so now I've got some books in the background. So you can upload your image from there, or you can select an image from the web. You can also just choose to reset, and that's going to reset it to the default whenever you started. You can also change your header type from here, so it can be the full cover page if it's that. It's going to be big. Those options are up to you. You can change it to be whatever you want. I'll click it back to the banner so you can actually see some of the themes. So when you click onto themes over here, you can see they've got a few different themes built in, not a whole lot. I'm usually a big fan of this level theme over here because it kind of works out with our colors being black and gold at Murphy High School. So this is the theme that I used for the student theme. Pages is another big thing that you're going to want to add into your site. So usually, websites are more than one page, let's say. So we will give that title, and you see now I've got test page 1 added, and I have some navigation up here as well. If I click over here on this little navigation setting button over on the very, very left-hand side, it's going to see the brand images gives you the option to select your logo, and then it will appear everywhere you want to put a logo in there, easy to access that way. Of course, viewer tools are available here. So this is going to be settings for how people are going to be able to view your site. It will show, and you can also show anchor links or not. It's just up to you. And then you can also see your analytics if you would like to, but you navigate through the site rather than having everything up here at the top. So up to you how you want that navigation to be set. I just needed to get at least one page added in there so you could see it. So when I click another new page, let's say this is going to be test page 2, we'll add that in as well. Got multiple pages that are going to have like the same information on them, but slightly different. So like I just created a website based on standards for the school library program. So I had standard 1, standard 2, standard 3, standard 4, standard 5, all as pages, and then each page was duplicated, and I just changed the information for the specific standard on the page. So everything was formatted and easily findable and visible that way. Just makes it a little bit easier to view if you're doing something like that. You can change your page properties. Not really a whole lot of properties here. You can make it, they would actually need to maybe click on a specific link somewhere else in the website to get to test page 1. So you can hide that from navigation, so it's not an option for somebody to click on. If I do that, you see it's got that little dash through it like it's hidden. When I go over to my navigation, you can see that test page 1 is not showing in page 1. You can see that has gone over to the side a little bit here, and it is a sub page of test page 2. So if I go back to my test page 2 navigation, I can go to test page 2, or the navigation also gives me the drop-down option to go to any sub pages that might be on test page 2. All right, so very, very easy to get that navigation set up. Let's say I get up to change the order of your pages, and it's going to take all those sub pages associated with it as well. So very easy way to change the order. If I wanted test page 2 back up top, just drag it up there and drop it in the section that you want it to be in. You can also do the same thing if you wanted to make, let's say, this a sub page, test page 2 tucked under test page 1 with sub page tucked underneath it, and it's made all of it adopt the not showing in navigation option. Showable in navigation. So we'll be able to see it, and then I would have to go through and make each selection showable in navigation if I did it that way. A sub page of page 1, I can drag it back down and make it its own page here. Now let's show that in navigation as well. So the site's creation. So as I had that highlighted, you could see that it was showing me kind of this text to be right next to this picture. I can drag my text using this little grid in the top of it. That makes me able to pick up the whole text box and move it. So I can slap it right there. So now I've got my picture. So I would just drag it to the top of the picture and you see that bar highlights, or I can drag it to the bottom. And if I drop it on that, it will now be linked. You've got to double click into whichever thing you're selecting, whether it be the text box or the picture, to make sure only that is highlighted with the blue line. And then you can drag it off of whatever you've got selected and move it to its own section. So you can see as well that the text box went into its own little pane here where I can delete the section, I can duplicate the section, or I can change the background. So since I've got a theme selected, it's giving me these background options that I can choose from, or I can choose to upload an image myself. And then this section would have its own settings as well to duplicate it, delete it, or change its background. So if I wanted this section to have a yellow background, I can click on it and it will have a yellow background, a URL here, and embed another web page into this web page. So embedding a web page means that you can still navigate through that web page, change the size of it. So let's say I want to make it skinnier so we don't have those big black boxes at the top and bottom. So you can do that. And you can see I won't be able to like navigate anywhere in here right now. I can't go to my slide 2 or slide 3 in this slideshow because I'm in the editing website mode. Next to each other, and that's going to show me a preview of what my website looks like. And in here, then I can actually click through my slides in my slideshow and view it on each setting that we've got. So if you want to make sure that your page is still going to look okay for people who are viewing it on a cell phone, I hover over it and it will take me back to the editable version of my site so I can keep working. All right, let's move my face again here and have, let's say, students be able to view the slideshow. I would want to go in and change the settings on this Google slideshow to allow any sheets, slides, anything like that that you might be inserting so everyone can view that content and it won't restrict access that way. So very insert. So if I do one of those, you can see I can add a title here and then add some more text down here. I think it's pretty fun. So if you've got like a big wall of text that you want to put in something and you don't want it to be detracting from your overall site design, you could do one of those collapsible text. So that's going to go towards the top because of course that's how you want to view your table of contents. You can also put in a image carousel. So that's a really fun thing. You can select multiple images to put in your carousel. Let's see if it lets me select more than one at a time. Ooh, it does. Again, I would have to click on the preview version to be able to see that happening. But my images are all in there and it will cycle. Change my carousel settings, or I can choose to delete this image carousel altogether from here. When you click on something that's text, it will give you your text settings, and these again are very limited in Google Sites. So you won't have all of the text formatting capabilities that you're used to, but you will have a little bit you can do. So you can change it to a heading, a subheading, small text, title text, or normal text. You can also change to bold, italicize, and start fresh, or you can choose to delete the text from there as well. If I click up here on my Google slideshow, you can see that you can have it loop through those 3 slides over and over and over again. If you choose that loop setting. So it gives you some specific settings for each of these things as you're going through. The image, for instance, you can crop the image, you can uncrop it, you can insert a link. So if somebody clicks on the image, it will take them to a link that you've inserted. You can also choose to delete the image. And then this hamburger gives you more options to replace the image with something else from your box for you right at the bottom, so you can add that caption in without having to drag your other text box and connect it, which is a little bit more labor intensive for you. Title right here. So if I wanted to link this right here, if I click on link, it's going to show me the link box where I can paste this actual, let's say this is for test page 1. And it's some information about that test page 1, and I wanted them to be able to click on this test page 1 right here to get to test page 1. If I clicked on that link and said test page 1 and apply it, now I have a link that's going to take me directly to test page 1 by clicking on this instead of having to go to my navigation. So that's a useful thing they've got built in. So you can insert a divider. So divider is going to go basically along with your theme. So right now it's a gray divider. That's what they've got built in. And you can see you can delete your divider as well from there. Nothing you can really change about the divider. It's just going to show up. You can insert a YouTube video, and you can search YouTube using this box. One thing I really like about this and recently figured out you could do, you can actually go to your uploaded videos. So when I click on uploaded, everything that I've recorded and posted on YouTube is going to show right here. So I can easily access all of my YouTube recordings to insert onto this website without having to go search for the URL or search YouTube for the video that I'm looking for. All my videos are going to show up right there if I've posted them to YouTube. So that's something very, very useful that I've found. That's a huge time saver. All right, you can also insert a calendar. So this is going to be any calendar that you've got from, move my face over here, in Google. So it's taken it just a moment to load. All right, so any calendar that I've built, you can see all of my built-in calendars here. I can Murphy. You can also choose to drop a place mark into your map. So like if you wanted to highlight something else, like let's say I wanted to put in the information about where Murphy High School is located, which I think is about right there. I can click in there and it will drop. So let's say I want this to be 1 more level zoomed in, and I want it to be a satellite view. So I like how that looks. When I click select, I'm happy with this map. It's going to insert my map here and have that satellite view available, as you can see in the corner. So that's really great if you've got a map you want to show, and then of course you can resize your map and it will have to again snap to that grid that it's showing you in the background. You can't say. So it's just going to adjust automatically to your map how you want it to look. All right, you can also insert docs, slides, sheets, forms from here. Your basic Google Drive documents that you can put in. So that's just an easy way to see all of your documents. In a moment, it's going to show me all of the slideshows that I have in my Google Drive, and it's only showing me slideshows. So I could go through here and find the slides that I was looking for and get that added from there. And then lastly, of course, you can insert charts. So if you've got to your sheets that way. And that's really about it as far as Google Sites go. I guess capstone site for grad school. And I've used quite a few features that I've just talked about in this capstone site. So I've got my text box and image put in here. I had a caption on my image as well to give that its works cited entry. If I come over here to my references page, you will notice once it loads that you cannot do the hanging indent on this formatting. So it's just going to be a text box that's got your basic text in it that you can't format as specifically as you maybe would like to, but it is still there. So you've got that option. I'm also going to show you under my standards here that for each of these, make that a drop down so people could view it if they wanted, but didn't necessarily have to. If I scroll down a little bit, you'll see that I also have my map built in, and I have a text box attached to it so I could give it a description. I also have a Google Doc embedded right here with 2 text boxes built in on top of it. So you can see very easily all of the things that I've got. So right here, if you scroll down, you can see I've made, I don't know, like 5 or 6 different Google sites now. So I've pretty much encountered everything there is to encounter on Google Sites. So if you've got any edits that you might have made, your little computer and cell phone icon there is your preview. You can copy the published site link. So this site is published, and it gives me the link to that site right here that I can copy and then send to somebody. You can also share with others. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than other share boxes that you're used to seeing on this site. As a published viewer, she's just going to be able to see the published site. So then I can choose to send it or not send it. I'm just going to cancel out of that. And then you can also change the way that your links are shared. So there's 2 different links settings that you're going to have here. The draft view, I always recommend you make that restricted. So anything that you haven't published, so you notice that big publish button up in the top right corner, if you haven't published your site yet, it's just a draft and nobody can see it except for you. So only me or other editors that I might have added will be able to see this site as a draft. So once I publish it, then that's where the second link option comes in. So right now I have the site published, so anyone to the title of your site that popped up, it's just your basic navigation settings, your brand images, viewer tools, and analytics. So same thing that you've seen, which I duplicated the teacher portal site and then rebuilt it with a little bit of variance for the student portal site for the library. Because I knew I wanted to use the same theming and the same kind of basic formatting. So I just chose to duplicate it so I didn't have to build it all from scratch. Here as well. So you've got the drop down. You can either click publish, and that's just going to publish your site straight up. No, nothing doing. All right. You've also got some publish settings. You can view the publish site from here, or you can choose to unpublish the site. So maybe you published it and then realized that you didn't quite have it where you wanted it to be. So you can take it back down so nobody can see it again until you publish it again. Publish settings are kind of important to note. So you've got your web address. So this Capstone Montague is the web address for this site. You can see the full address right below that. You can also select whether or not you need to review changes before you publish a site. So I'm going to say cancel on that really quick, and then you can also do the review changes from here. So if you have that option selected, of course it doesn't show me anything right now. Let's make a real quick change here. I'm just going to add a period. All right, now I'm going to do review and change. Okay, so it's showing me that on my draft version period in it. So I can choose to publish this, or if I don't want to publish this, I realize that the changes I made were wrong, I can go back right here on the top left, just go back to the editor here, and I can take out anything that I may have messed up and didn't want to actually publish before I click on that publish to approve those changes. So I don't really like doing the review changes before I publish, because you might want to have them do the review changes, or you do the review changes. So if either of you are making changes on the website and then go to publish, I like Google Sites as a way to put like an entire unit of instruction into one site. So for that entire 2-week-long unit, also post on Google Classroom. Google Sites are also a great thing for students to use if you want them to present a big project. So maybe if you had like seniors doing a career project that's kind of like a capstone, like I'm showing you here. For seniors, you might want to have them build a Google site to house all of that information that they have, because that's going to be something huge, a really big project that they'll have a lot of pieces that they're bringing into. So Google Site creation can definitely be a way to do some assessment of students and see how well students are grasping a concept or understanding a unit that you're going through. Having the final project be a Google Site would be a great way for students to showcase what they've learned. And Sites is pretty easy to use overall, so it might be something that helps them out as well. So again, if you've got any questions, need any further assistance on Google Sites, I'd be happy to help. Just let me know. Like I said, I've built multiple sites and they're pretty easy to use, although they can be frustrating because there's not quite so much formatting you can do on your own. You've got to stick within their boundaries of what they deem acceptable. But they are a useful tool. I've had a lot of fun creating Google Sites, and hopefully you've learned something. So if you need any help, let me know.